was avoidable. That said, the police department reacted very swiftly, very intentionally to address the matter, as did other citizens in the community. And so at this time, we wanted to bring forth some information that we did not have as our investigation continues to report to the public. And so I have with me Chief Darryl Albert, the Chief of the Montgomery Police Department, who will update you on the status of this event and how things are going in the investigation at this point. But again, we want to thank all the members of the public, all of our first responders, everyone who's been helpful, witnesses in bringing forth the information that we have. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Chief Albert. Chief.
Good afternoon. Again, Chief Darryl Albert, Montgomery Police Department. Now, I'll kind of lay out the facts as we know them now regarding the incident that took place on Saturday, August 5th, 2023 at 7 p.m. There were several events taking place on our historic riverfront. Positive feedback regarding a school event hosted by the Montgomery Public Schools and Hyundai was taking place at the amphitheater and nearby train shed. The Harriet II river cruise ship was fully operational, operating from a designated docking space along the river. The Harriet takes passengers on 2-hour tours up and along the Alabama River throughout the day. On this day, there were 227 passengers aboard that vessel. The incident occurred between a co-captain of the Harriet II vessel and a private boat owner and his family. As the Harriet attempted to dock in its designated space, designated and reserved due to the gangway access as well as the mooring requirements, the private boat was docked in its space, prohibiting safe docking of the Harriet. The captain of the Harriet remained away from the dock for nearly 40 to 45 minutes as he attempted to contact the operators of the private boat via PA system. They were only responded to with obscene gestures, curse words, and taunting. The co-captain was then picked up by a separate vessel and brought to the pier in an attempt to have a conversation with the private boat owners and or have those boats moved so that the Harriet could dock. A confrontation ensued between the co-captain and Mr. Pickett, the co-captain, being attacked by several members of the private boat. Several members of the Harriet II came to Mr. Pickett's defense, engaging in what we all have seen since on social media. I'll give you a timeline as to the way the calls came in and the Montgomery Police Department's response. The original call came in at 7 p.m. as a typical disturbance. The caller, who was the captain of the Harriet, was very calm and not in distress. As additional calls were received, at 7:15 p.m., the call was dispatched to the Montgomery Police Department. 7:18, the first units, 4 Montgomery Police Department officers arrived on scene, with 3 shortly thereafter. 13 individuals were detained and brought to police headquarters for questioning and interviews. Those interviews lasted several hours. At that time, all parties involved were released pending further investigation, but were all given instructions on how to secure warrants on the combatants. We have since consulted with and are continuing to work with the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, our state police agency, the Montgomery's DA's office, and the local office of the FBI. This investigation is ongoing and more charges are likely. We encourage the public to continue to send us additional videos or evidence relating to this case. Those can be sent to starcenter@montgomeryal.gov or at our secret witness, 334-625-4000. The victims in this case, the co-captain, Mr. Damian Pickett, black male, and a 16-year-old white male juvenile who was struck by the owners and operators of the private boat. The suspects thus far have been identified as Richard Roberts, white male, 48 years old, with 2 outstanding warrants for assault, 3rd degree. Alan Todd, white male, 23 years old, 1 warrant for assault, 3rd degree. And Zachary Shipman, white male, 25 years old, 1 warrant for assault, 3rd degree. We have instructed those individuals to turn themselves into law enforcement, and as at this time, 1 is secured and in custody. The other 2 are set to turn themselves in within the next hour. We are also asking for Mr. Reggie Gray, the black male, 42 years old, who was seen wielding that folding chair, to contact the Montgomery Police Department for further interviews and as part of this investigation. As the mayor said a minute ago, this investigation is ongoing and more charges are likely. We want to thank the public and the media for supplying the much needed evidence and video surveillance that we've received, and then helped us to determine the facts as they happen. Keep in mind, when incident took place, when it initially took place, the police department didn't have the luxury of the videos that we all have seen now. The police department was acting on statements and witness statements that occurred as we arrived. Now that we have more information, again, more charges are pending. I'm available to answer your questions, but that sums up where we are at this time, sir. Not at this time. We know 1 individual has turned himself in. He is in the custody of the Selma Police Department. Again, I've worked with the Selma Police Department, and we've been working very closely with Chief Fulford over there, and Chief Fulford contacted me just prior to this press conference and said 1 individual has turned himself in, and the other 2 are set to turn themselves in a little bit later. Now, the issue is we had multiple addresses in Selma and in Orange Beach. So locating these individuals were a little bit challenging, but now we've made contact. We should be and will be bringing those individuals here for justice. Sir. So on the night of the incident, the Montgomery Police Department detained 13 individuals for questioning and for further investigations. Those individuals were transported to police headquarters, in which at that time we were able to gain much needed information we need and provide them with information on how to secure warrants for the information and for the acts that you saw live on TV.
Can you identify?
Well, thank you. Yeah. So the co-captain, again, as the co-captain approached the dock and attempted to peacefully move the boat over just enough so that Harrier could park, the owners of the boat confronted him in a very hostile manner. There was words exchanged, and then it turned into a fistic encounter that you've all seen. So the co-captain was doing his job. He was simply trying to move the boat in just enough to where the cruise ship can park safely in its identified location. However, it quickly escalated into a fistic encounter. So as it relates to racial epithets in conversation and names being called, while the Harriet was still out in the water, there was a lot of, I've seen finger gestures and comments and innuendos made at a distance. Of course, when the co-captain approached, that continued. But again, working with the local FBI, we did examine if there was enough to file hate crimes charges on this case. And again, we rely heavily on advice from the FBI. We've also looked at what it takes to elevate this to a riot or inciting a riot. We've worked with our local district attorney, and it didn't fit the criteria for that. So the charges that we have pending on South Third at this time are appropriate charges for what we've seen and the behavior that we've seen on social media. Yes, so the four warrants that's secured are all members of the pontoon boat, and the attack on the co-captain. And there was an attack on a 16-year-old employee of the smaller vessel that took the co-captain from the Harriet to the dock. That 16-year-old was assaulted by one of those members of that pontoon boat, and his mother actually went signed warrants on one of those individuals. That individual was a 16-year-old white male employee of the smaller vessel that was operating in the river at that time as well. Yes, so assault third is misdemeanor charges by statute. And the names of the individuals that's wanted is Richard Roberts, Roberts. He's a white male, 48 years old. He has two warrants pending for assault third. Alan Todd, Todd, 23-year-old white male, has one warrant pending. And Zachary Shipman, Shipman, white male, 25 years old, he has one warrant pending. We have no knowledge at this time that this was something that was continued from prior incidents. This was a standalone incident, again, that was brought to our attention and we acted on the information we had. I can tell you we looked at every avenue. There was no stone unturned. We examined this over a period of time, not only that night, but since that night. At this time, based on the way the statutes read and the way the laws are crafted, we were unable to present any inciting a riot or racially biased charges at this time. I'm sorry? Okay, so the smaller vessel I mentioned, in which the co-captain was moved from the Harriet to the dock, was moved by a smaller vessel. A smaller vessel operating independently in the river was able to pick up the co-captain and bring him to the dock so that he could work on moving the boats that were impeding the docking of the Harriet. I do not have the information on the defendant that turned himself in. We do know that one has since been taken into custody by Selma PD, and the other two are en route to Selma now to turn themselves in. And of course, the Montgomery Police Department will do that transfer of those suspects to be transported here to the city of Montgomery. So there was no signage at the time. However, the mooring area for the Harriet is well defined by the dock itself, the area that's cordoned off, as well as the large poles that the boat ties off to. And you know what we do is the Harriet is parked there all the time. That boat is out there all the time. Individuals that utilize that river and that dock are very familiar with where that larger vessel is required to dock because of the mooring that's set up, as well as the gangplank areas that needs to be utilized to get those passengers on and off the vessel. Well, I'll say this. There were signs there over a period of time. The signs have either been removed or blown away several times. We are looking at a new strategy to post the signs where they're more permanently attached and affixed. Absolutely understand the question and the concern. That's why this department went above and beyond and looked under every stone for answers. And we reached out to not only ourselves internally, but we looked at our state and federal partners to consult with to see if we're right in line with the charges that's appropriate for the incident at hand. Well, first of all, this is not indicative of who we are as a city. The city of Montgomery is much better than that. Our people are fine people. We have plenty going on in terms of events. Look, that was a positive event. The Montgomery Public Schools and Hyundai Corporation getting together to do a back to school event. We had the boat operating in the river. We had folks downtown enjoying a good day. That's what we're about here in the city of Montgomery. We're about a good time, enjoying ourselves, and being neighborly. So it was quite disturbing that we saw this type of activity happening. And that's why the Montgomery Police Department and all of our partnering agencies got together to make sure we're doing all we can to not only bring this case to a close, but prevent it from happening in the future. Alex?
I couldn't say it any better.
Well, the co-captain did receive treatment at a local hospital the night of the event. That's the only knowledge that we have of anybody receiving any injuries or receiving treatment for injuries. Well, we talk about conflict resolution and de-escalation all the time. We talk about that, and it's not only for kids, it's not only for teenagers and juveniles. Everyone must be aware of conflict resolution and de-escalation. There was no need for this event to take the path it did. Well, again, we have many, many more interviews to conduct. We're going to ask everyone that we previously interviewed, as well as the videos that we were starting to receive. As we identify additional folks that we need to talk to, we'll ask them to come in and we'll try to locate them and do further investigation, see if charges are appropriate. Wait, let's go here and I'll come back to you. Well, my message is again, like I just said a minute ago, the people of Montgomery, and we're better than that, in that we're a fun city, and we don't want this type of activity to shed a dark eye on what this city is all about. Again, we're going to do all we can, our due diligence, to ensure that this case is solved and put to rest, and that we don't have this type of activity going on in our city again. Sir?
Can you state your name and who you're with? With who?
Okay, so the individual wielding the folding chair has been identified as Mr. Reggie Gray, black male, 42 years old. We're again asking Mr. Reggie Gray to contact local law enforcement. There's more interviews and for us to conduct with him, and I'm sure we'll be in contact with him in the very near future. We're asking him to reach out to us within the next 24 hours so we can again sort through the issues with the folding chair and with what we all saw on social media as well. Well, what I'll say to that is anyone involved that has culpability for violating the law is subject to, restrictions in terms of the law. So we're going to go where this investigation leads us. No one's off limits. We'll interview as many as we need. Again, on the night of the incident, we interviewed 13 that we were able to detain and transport to police headquarters. But again, I don't think we're near finished. We have a lot more work to do on this, and we'll continue to inform the public and the media on our progress. There was no damage reported at this time. Sir? Well, great question regarding resources. The Montgomery Police Department is fully functional and able to handle this investigation. We do thank our local, state, and federal partners for their contribution to this investigation. We'll continue to lean on them as needed. Again, I've worked with and been in constant contact with Chief Fulfer over in Selma, and we'll continue to do so wherever it takes us. Wherever this investigation takes us and leads us, we'll be in contact with those individuals able to help us. So the question is about the large event. So the large event that was going on was the amphitheater, again at the train shed, and then a parking lot just outside of the river. So we had officers already assigned to the area. And we talk about the time the call came in versus the time it was dispatched. So the call came in for 7. It wasn't dispatched because of the way the call came in. The riverboat pilot was very calm. He just said it was a disturbance. As more calls came in and the call takers asked more appropriate questions, the call was dispatched at 7:15, and within 3 minutes, the first 4 officers were on scene, and immediately following that, 3 additional officers were on scene, totaling 7. So the response was adequate, was timely, based on the information received from the communication division. Teresa, what I'll tell you is that based on the elements of this crime, those elements did not exist. No, I don't. Of course, they'll have their day in court. We're going to be transported from Selma over here to Montgomery, and then they'll face the court system here in the city of Montgomery. So I don't have a timeline for you, but again, we're still waiting on 2 additional subjects to turn themselves in. Again, that's supposed to happen within the hour. So we're waiting on those as well, and then we'll work on the transport from where they are to get them back here in our jurisdiction. Yes, sir. They'll be posted. They'll be made available to all media. Once contact is made with law enforcement, they'll be placed under arrest and provided their Miranda warnings as appropriate.
I don't think you judge any community by any one incident. As Chief said before, this is not indicative of who we are. As a matter of fact, the people on the pontoon boat are not residents of Montgomery. So I think it's important for us to address this as an isolated incident, one that was avoidable, and one that was brought on by individuals who chose the wrong path of action. From the time they were notified that they were in the vicinity of where the Harriet parks, to how they responded to when they were given a second notice of that. So this is not indicative of our community at all, and I think people will view this as the actions of a few individuals and not characterize the entire community. All right. Well, listen, with that, we want to thank, go ahead.
Sure. And in closing, I just want to, appeal to the public that this incident is isolated. It will be over soon. We're going to continue our investigation until we put this to rest. But make no mistake, our fusion center, our state police, our partnering agencies, we're all paying attention to what's going on. And in terms of any possible retaliatory acts, don't come here with it. We're not going to tolerate it. We will be active, we will be aggressive, and we will not allow this type of behavior in our city. That's the message to the community. And again, thank everyone, thank the public. Please continue to send us those bits and pieces of video that you have out there. We're reviewing each and every one of them for content, and we will utilize those as best needed. Thank you very much.
Again, we want to thank everyone in the community for their help and involvement in this. Many who have shared information with us via social media and other forms of communication. We also want to thank again our first responders for their reaction and the work that they do each and every day to protect and serve this community. And we want to thank all of you for covering this incident and certainly making sure that it's thorough in the accounting of how the incidents took place and where we go from here. Again, as Chief mentioned, this investigation is ongoing, and as there are new developments, we'll make sure to inform you of those. So thank you so much, and that will conclude this press conference. Thank you.